Surveying global megalithic complexes from the wind-swept stone alignments of Carnac to the deeply buried circular enclosures of Göbekli Tepe through the rigorous lens of mineralogia and structural mass reveals an astonishing engineering intent hidden beneath millennia of myth and weathering. These massive stone monuments were not erected merely as primitive markers for seasonal shifts or tribal gatherings, but were selected and positioned based on precise geological properties. Analyzing the high concentration of quartz crystal matrices embedded densely within the megalithic masonry and the underlying bedrock foundations exposes a deliberate pattern, as ancient builders consistently sought out locations where the earth possessed exceptional crystalline purity. Examining the subtle piezoelectric properties inherent in these materials demonstrates how continuous mechanical stress, tectonic pressure, and seasonal thermal expansion transform these colossal stones into natural electrical transducers, converting physical weight and geological friction into steady, low-frequency electrical currents. Unveiling the core premise behind this monumental architecture clarifies why these specific geological compositions align precisely with the exact parameters needed to anchor high-energy spatial anomalies, serving as colossal grounding pins for forces far beyond our current technological comprehension. Moving past the baseline mineral analysis, the investigation explores how these crystal-dense structures interact with invisible, subterranean forces that govern the planet's electromagnetic grid, tapping into telluric currents that pulse silently beneath the crust of the Earth. These subterranean pathways of energy functioned as an invisible circulatory system, winding through the silent crust, carrying pulses of planetary voltage that could be harnessed by those who understood the deep geometry of the lithosphere. The placement of each colossal monolith was calculated to intercept these wandering currents, acting as a valve or a throttle that could regulate the fierce flow of subterranean power before it bled out into the open atmosphere. Within the silent chambers of Göbekli Tepe and beneath the sprawling alignment stones of Carnac, the dense quartz matrices resonated in harmony with the heartbeat of the globe, creating localized pockets of temporal stability where the normal degradation of matter was subtly arrested. This invisible engineering was not designed to conquer nature, but to establish a delicate truce with the violent mechanics of a cooling planet, providing a stable anchor point for the high-energy flux that accompanied the arrival of the future wanderers. When the stellar pilgrims stepped backward across the threshold of the epochs, their fragile, hyper-advanced biology required a medium that could step down the crushing voltage of temporal displacement, smoothing out the violent static of shifting timelines into a frequency that human flesh could safely endure. The megaliths were, in essence, transformers built out of ancient stone, designed to step down the staggering current of eternity so that the remnants of a distant tomorrow could walk upon the primal earth without burning away into pure light. Each carved pillar and aligned menhir acted as a capacitor, storing the ambient electrical pressure of the tectonic plates and releasing it in measured, rhythmic pulses that match the biological frequency of the visitors. This synchronization allowed the travelers to lower their systemic shields without risking instantaneous cellular dissolution upon contact with an unshielded atmosphere. The ancient builders, guided by oral instructions passed down through impossible lineages, worked with an intuitive understanding of molecular lattices that modern science is only beginning to fathom, treating stone not as inert matter, but as a living conduit capable of bridging the chasms between distinct evolutionary epochs. As the millennia passed and the original keepers of the lore faded into the dust of forgotten history, the stones continued their silent vigil, humming with a low, imperceptible vibration that still registers against the sensitive instruments of the modern era, testifying to an epoch when human hands carved monuments not to worship the sky, but to anchor the very fabric of time itself. The quartz crystals embedded within these ancient structures remain active on a microscopic scale, perpetually grinding against the slow, immense pressure of the continental plates, generating an eternal, low-voltage hum that echoes the long-lost songlines of the stars. Those who walk among these megaliths in the dead of night, when the ambient noise of the modern world recedes into nothingness, can sometimes feel a faint, tingling warmth rising from the base of the stones, a residual thermal trace of the tremendous energies once channeled through the ancient grid. It is a subtle, enduring proof that the architecture of the deep past was inextricably linked to the mechanics of the deep future, forming an unbroken circuit of stone and star stuff that transcends the narrow boundaries of recorded history and speaks directly to the cosmic origins of the human form. Mapping the correlation between megalithic alignments and deep Earth magnetic anomalies, or tectonic fault intersections, reveals a profound cartography written in stone, where ancient master builders deliberately position their monuments directly over intersecting lines of high geomagnetic stress, breaking down the physics of telluric currents, those natural, broad-scale electrical circuits flowing silently through the conductive layers of the Earth's crust, illustrates how these invisible rivers of charge naturally seek out paths of least resistance, channeling their immense power through tectonic fractures and mineral veins. Analyzing how quartz-rich monoliths act as natural amplifiers or regulators for these fluctuating low-frequency electromagnetic fields demonstrates an intuitive mastery of geophysics, as the dense crystalline structures capture the shifting currents and modulate their intensity, preventing destructive surges from tearing through the delicate fabric of the local terrain. The concept of a passive anchor relies entirely on this precise physical stabilization, requiring a massive, stationary mass to pin down local space-time metrics against the violent energetic turbulence of interdimensional transit. Because the fabric of local coordinates is inherently prone to severe warping under the immense strain of backward temporal displacement, a heavy, unmoving anchor of high-density mineral composition is fundamentally essential to hold the physical geometry rigid, resisting the relentless pull of temporal drag and atmospheric shear. These massive stone sentinels absorbed the chaotic kinetic friction of shifting epochs, acting as cosmic shock absorbers that damped the dangerous oscillations of a collapsing future timeline. Within these localized fields, the normal rules of temporal progression relaxed just enough to allow fragile physiological structures to cross the threshold without experiencing catastrophic molecular decoherence. The ancient engineers understood that space and time were not abstract, untouchable dimensions, but elastic fabrics that could be mechanically gripped, tensioned, and secured using the heavy leverage of planetary mass and crystalline resonance. Every carved menhir and megalithic circle functioned as a structural knot tied into the very armature of the planet, preventing the fragile bridge between the dawn of humanity and the twilight of the stars from unraveling into the absolute void. With the earthly foundation mapped, the narrative crosses into theoretical physics, linking piezoelectric resonance to the stabilization of high-dimensional space-time metrics. The interaction between mechanical pressure and electrical generation within the quartz lattice created a localized shielding effect, bending the local metric tensor just enough to create a safe corridor for travelers moving against the current of time. This sophisticated geometry of stone and charge formed an invisible cathedral of forces, operating on principles that bridge the gap between ancient stonecraft and the most advanced mechanics of deep future physics, ensuring that the memory of the stars remained anchored to the cooling soil of a primitive world. When the local metric tensor is compressed by the dual action of tectonic strain and crystalline lattice oscillation, the resulting vector field creates a localized zone where standard temporal progression is suspended in a state of delicate equilibrium. This mathematical harmony allows the physical constants of the future to coexist momentarily with the primitive chemistry of the primordial Earth, dissolving the hard barrier between distinct epochs into a single, seamless continuum. The energy required to maintain such an aperture does not come from artificial power sources or external combustion, but from the eternal, slow grinding of continental plates against one another, turning the colossal weight of the planet into an engine of temporal preservation. Within this quiet zone of suspended metrics, the travelers could step out of the current of forward time without causing a catastrophic pressure differential that would otherwise vaporize their physiological structure upon contact with an unshielded atmosphere. The physics governing this transit operate on principles of harmonic resonance, where specific vibrational frequencies act as keys that unlock the doors between separated dimensions, allowing consciousness to traverse the abyss of deep time intact. This cosmic architecture reveals a startling continuity in the structure of reality, demonstrating that the matter composing the ancient stones and the biology carried by the wanderers share a common origin rooted in the deep mechanics of stellar evolution. As the tectonic plates shift imperceptibly beneath the foundations of the megaliths, they continue to generate the low-frequency carrier wave that sustains this latent dimensional bridge, keeping the circuit alive even as human civilizations rise and fall in ignorance of the titanic forces humming beneath their feet. The geometry of space is not a rigid grid, but a flexible, responsive fabric that can be woven and knotted by those who understand how to apply the proper mass and frequency at the precise intersection of terrestrial fault lines. Every carved pillar and aligned menhir acts as a physical node in a planetary network designed to bridge the chasm between the dawn of intelligent life and its eventual cooling twilight, ensuring that the lineage of consciousness remains unbroken across the vast, empty stretches of the cosmos. This intricate web of stone and charge operates independently of human recognition, humming its silent song through the bedrock, regardless of whether anyone listens, maintaining a perpetual dialogue between the ancient Earth and its far-flung descendants. The resonance is subtle, registering only as a microscopic fluctuation in sensitive magnetic equipment or a sudden, unexplained chill in the night air. Yet it represents the most sophisticated engineering ever achieved on the planet. A monument built not to glorify a transient ruler or mark a seasonal cycle, but to preserve the pathway through which the future could look back upon its own source. As the Earth continues its slow, majestic rotation through the dark, these stone nodes remain vigilant, anchoring the fragile parameters of space-time against the relentless erosion of entropy, a silent testament to an epoch when the species mastered the art of folding time itself into the architecture of the world. The deep silence that settles over these ancient complexes at midnight is not an empty vacuum, but a heavy, charged presence, a tangible density resulting from millions of years of accumulated piezoelectric potential waiting for the exact frequency to resonate once more. Every crystal embedded within the masonry holds a microscopic charge, a tiny battery charged by the slow motion of the continents, storing the kinetic friction of the Earth and transforming it into a silent, invisible beacon that reaches across the light years and the centuries alike. When the wind sweeps across the megalithic fields, it carries not just the scent of pine and damp soil, but the faint, ionized whisper of an architecture that defies the ordinary boundaries of existence, reminding anyone who pauses to listen that the history of human life on this planet is far stranger, far deeper, and far more interconnected with the ultimate fate of the universe than any conventional chronicle could ever hope to describe. Defining the mechanics of a temporal anchor reveals that any time displacement field requires a fixed, unyielding, spatial reference point to prevent catastrophic displacement drift, which would otherwise fling an arriving consciousness into the wrong century or scatter its atoms across empty vacuum. Analyzing the role of strong electromagnetic containment fields in buffering against localized metric distortions and time dilation, tearing demonstrates how these invisible barriers absorb the fierce kinetic shock of chronological translation, acting as protective bulkheads against the crushing pressure of the timeline. Evaluating the mathematics of closed-loop energy stabilization using high dielectric constant minerals like crystalline quartz exposes a rigorous, elegant physics where dielectric polarization coefficients match the exact decay rates of temporal waves, trapping the energy within a self-sustaining resonant loop. Comparing modern laboratory confinement concepts, frail constructs of magnetic coils and high-energy particle accelerators that require constant, volatile power, with the passive, massive architecture of ancient stone circles, reveals the sheer superiority of planetary engineering. With a colossal weight of millions of tons of mineral-dense rock, achieves stable containment without consuming a single watt of artificial energy. These megalithic rings do not fight the forces of spacetime with brute electrical force. Instead, they absorb the shock through massive inertia and crystalline harmony, offering a quiet, enduring sanctuary where the violent turbulence of temporal mechanics settles into a tranquil, balanced equilibrium. As the theoretical physics of spatial anchoring take shape, the focus shifts to how future travelers would theoretically interface their temporal technology with primitive stone monuments. The interface between the advanced temporal apparatus of the wanderers and the crude mineral architecture of the ancient monoliths relied not on physical wires or digital transmission protocols, but on a shared language of harmonic resonance. When the travelers approached a designated stone circle, their personal navigation units emitted a precise, low-frequency carrier wave, calibrated to match the specific dielectric constant of the local quartz matrices, initiating a silent, invisible handshake across the centuries. This energetic key did not force an opening through brute power, but rather whispered a mathematical sequence into the stone's crystalline lattice, coaxing the piezoelectric minerals to gently modulate their output and widen the aperture of the stabilization field. The massive stones responded with a subtle, cascading shiver that rippled through the underlying bedrock, a microscopic expansion and contraction of the mineral grains that registered as a faint, rhythmic humming to anyone standing within the ring. Through this delicate synchronization, the portable containment units worn by the pilgrims coupled directly with the immense mass of the planetary anchor, effectively shifting the burden of metric stabilization from their own fragile, wearable generators onto the colossal weight of the Earth itself. This seamless integration allowed the travelers to step out of the current of forward time without generating a destructive displacement shock wave, ensuring that the surrounding primeval wilderness remained completely undisturbed by their arrival. The interface was an act of profound ecological harmony, utilizing the natural capacitance of the planet as a quiet vessel to absorb the immense mechanical stress of dimensional transit. As the frequency locked into place, the air within the stone circle thickened with an electric stillness, smelling faintly of ozone and ancient stone, as if the local atmosphere were holding its breath in anticipation of a weight that had not existed a moment prior. Within this sanctuary of suspended physics, the boundary between the dawn of human existence and the dying embers of the future dissolved entirely, leaving only the silent communion of crystal and consciousness anchored to the deep, unyielding soil of a cooling world. The precision required for this interface was absolute, demanding an exact calibration of harmonic frequencies that had been calculated millions of years in advance and encoded into the very oral traditions passed down through unbroken generations of human keepers. If the resonance drifted by even a fraction of a hertz, the temporal anchor would fail to engage, casting the travelers adrift into the crushing, formless vacuum of interdimensional space, where history offered no footing and time had no direction. Yet, through the quiet vigilance of the stones and the unyielding memory of the custodians, the connection held firm time after time, forming an unbroken thread of light and stone that stretched across the unimaginable gulf between the first spark of intelligent life and its ultimate, distant culmination. Every megalithic ring and aligned menhir functioned as a sentinel in this grand design, standing silently against the slow march of entropy, waiting for the precise moment when the future would lean back against the past and rest its weary bones upon the eternal bedrock of the earth. The energy required to maintain this delicate equilibrium flowed endlessly through the deep crust, driven by the ceaseless tectonic grinding of the continental plates, ensuring that the bridge between epochs remained open as long as the planet retained its inner fire. This vast planetary machine operated without gears or circuits, constructed entirely out of ancient rock and natural physics, a testament to an intelligence that recognized the ultimate unity of all matter across the sweep of cosmic history. As the night wind swept across the windswept plateaus and rustled the dense canopies surrounding the sacred stones, the silent machinery of time continued its eternal work, humming a low, steady lullaby that resonated in the marrow of the earth and spoke of an ancestry that reached far beyond the narrow cradle of a single world. Exploring the audacious architecture of the temporal retroengineering hypothesis reveals a profound reversal of cause and effect, where a civilization standing at the ultimate edge of existence must reach backward across the abyss to construct the very foundation of its own survival, long before the local inhabitants of that primitive era possess the conceptual framework to understand what they are guarding. This proactive construction creates a staggering temporal paradox, demanding that the anchors of tomorrow be seeded into the deep past by travelers who are simultaneously dependent on structures that their own descendants have not yet finished carving into the living rock. The material durability constraint governing this retro-engineered network dictates that no steel alloy, digital infrastructure, or synthetic composite could possibly withstand the relentless, grinding corrosion of millions of years, leaving dense granite and high-purity quartz monoliths as the only terrestrial mediums capable of carrying an intelligible signal across the deep ocean of geological time. While modern human infrastructure rusts into red dust and digital archives decay into silent corruption, within mere decades, these unyielding mineral formations endure, maintaining their structural integrity through millennia of glacial advance, tectonic upheaval, and weathering rain. Analyzing the results of modern acoustic and vibrational resonance tests performed on ancient subterranean stone chambers and megalithic alcoves exposes a startling fidelity to advanced engineering standards, demonstrating how these precise chambers naturally amplify and trap specific acoustic frequencies, perfectly mimicking modern frequency locking mechanisms used to stabilize quantum fields. When sound waves or low-frequency telluric tremors strike the interior walls of these sacred cavities, they do not dissipate into chaotic noise. Instead, they bounce along the curving stone surfaces in tightly focused standing waves, creating a localized nodal point of intense vibrational stability. This deliberate acoustic geometry acts as an invisible tuning fork, vibrating in exact synchronization with the carrier waves emitted by the temporal displacement units of the future wanderers, ensuring that the arrival corridor remains locked in place without wandering across the coordinate grid. While the technological hypothesis offers a stunning framework, the narrative must confront the physical scars and anomalous stress signatures embedded within the stones themselves, where microscopic examination reveals deep lattice fractures that defy standard geological explanation. When geologists analyze thin sections of megalithic quartz under polarized light, they discover localized zones of intense, unidirectional stress that do not align with the regional tectonic vector, pointing instead toward a massive hyperdimensional shear force applied from a completely different axis of reality. These invisible scars tell the silent story of countless arrivals and departures, recording the microscopic shock waves of chronal displacement as energy bled out from the stabilization fields and burned itself directly into the crystal lattices. The stones remember what history forgot, retaining an atomic memory of a future that has already happened and a past that is still unfolding, locked in an eternal state of geological tension that cannot be relaxed by the passage of ordinary time. This enduring stress serves as a physical signature of the paradox, a permanent bruise left upon the bedrock of the planet by travelers who were forbidden from altering history, yet forced to leave their heavy footprints upon the very foundations of the world. As the Earth continues its slow rotation through the dark, these scarred monoliths stand as quiet guardians of an impossible inheritance, whispering their silent secrets to the night wind and maintaining the fragile bridge between the first dawn of human consciousness and the final fading twilight of the stars. Reflecting on the silent partnership between ancient stone builders and post-human travelers separated by millions of years reveals an exquisite, melancholic symmetry that stretches across the entire arc of human existence. The primitive architects who hauled thousands of tons of granite and shaped rough-hewn quartz monoliths under the open sky had no concept of quantum metrics or temporal displacement, yet they followed the precise instructions of oral traditions to erect structures that defied their own immediate utility. They were the unwitting hosts of a deep future lineage, binding their modest earthly labor to the desperate survival of descendants who would watch the stars go dark. Pondering the absolute permanence of stone versus the fragile, ephemeral nature of modern digital civilization exposes the profound hubris of our current epoch, where vast oceans of human knowledge are stored on magnetic plates and silicon wafers destined to decay into silent corrosion within a few fleeting centuries. The ancient megaliths outlast empires, languages, and entire species, proving that true endurance belongs not to the rapid accumulation of transient technology, but to the patient, humble integration of human labor with the deep, slow mechanics of the planetary crust. The fire has long since turned to pale gray ash, the stones of the hearth grown cold in the damp mountain air. Yet in the stillness that follows the telling, something remains suspended in the space between the trees, a faint, iridescent shimmer, fleeting as breath on winter glass before dissolving entirely into the dark. The path back from the edge of time is always steep, requiring us to leave the high ridges and return to the lowlands, to the rush of our own hurried century and the neon pulse of our cities. But the silence of the wilderness follows us down. It settles in the marrow, a persistent reminder of the long walk home. We descend carrying more than memories. The old images have changed shape inside us, stripped of their impossible distances and made strangely intimate. A signal crossing 1,000 years is no longer merely a mystery. A face glimpsed beyond the threshold of a craft is no longer simply an unknown visitor. And the question of where they came from can no longer be separated from the question of where we are going. Perhaps that is why the stories endured. Not because they offered an escape from history, but because they forced us to imagine history from the other side. Every civilization believes it is moving forward. Every generation mistakes the road beneath its feet for the only road that could have existed. Yet time does not owe us a straight line. It may fold, echo, and return, carrying fragments of distant choices back toward the hands that made them. The pilgrims understood this too late. They had crossed the dark between worlds searching for a beginning they believed had been lost. They found instead a pattern written into themselves, the mathematics of a journey that could not exist without its destination. Their oldest relics were not warnings from strangers. They were instructions left by their own forgotten hands. And so the final revelation was not that humanity would someday meet its descendants. It was that humanity had already been meeting them, scattered across centuries as impossible lights, silent craft, broken transmissions, and memories that had no rightful place in the past. The mystery survived because the answer was never outside the human story. It was buried inside it. When the last traveler understood this, there was nothing left to conquer, no final gate to force open. The vessel turned away from the distant future and began its return. Behind it, the stars remained unchanged. Ahead waited the small blue world from which the journey had begun, still turning beneath clouds, unaware that its oldest future had already come home. The descent was quiet. No voices filled the cabin. No instruments announced a triumph. Only the deep vibration of the engines remained, steady and almost human as the ship crossed the darkness toward Earth. For the first time, the traveler did not feel that the journey was taking them somewhere. It was bringing them back. Far below, the night side of the planet appeared. There were no monuments visible from orbit, no borders, no names, only scattered lights trembling along coastlines and rivers, fragile against the immense blackness surrounding them. Somewhere beneath those lights, people were sleeping, waking, loving, fearing, building, forgetting. They did not know what had passed above them. They did not need to know. The traveler watched the world grow larger and understood the final truth. The purpose of the journey had never been to escape humanity, nor to replace it. It had been to preserve the possibility of becoming human again. The vessel entered the atmosphere. For a moment, the darkness burned away, revealing mountains, forests, and the first pale edge of dawn. Then the craft vanished into the morning sky, leaving no trail that history could record. And with that, the long circle was complete. The fire was only ash now. The mountains were silent. The future had returned to its beginning, and the beginning had accepted it without recognition. Nothing remained to be explained. Only the journey remained. And now, at last, it was over.